TheActuationZone.com, brought to you by ChangeLeadershipGroup.com.
Welcome to the Actuation Zone. This is Brett Clay. I'm here with Sharon from at the American Society of Training and Develop Conference here in San Jose, California. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Brett. How are you today?
Very good. So, Sharon, you are facilitating the course on training trainers. Tell us a little bit about what the way you see the training environment today that we're in these days. What's current?
Oh, great. That's a great question, Brett. Well, for one thing, this conference is specifically the ASTD Tech Knowledge Conference. So it's all about the technology of training, of learning overall. So that's really what's current is blended learning, social media, podcasting, webcasting, anything technology related that ties to learning and performance. So performance on the job too, just-in-time training. How do you get people what they need to learn and perform in the moment instead of over time?
Right. Yeah, we talked a little bit today in the training program that really people, especially adult learners, learn most when they're really in that moment, that receptive moment that they're trying to get a job completed, and they need help or skills, knowledge, and what's the other one I'm missing from KSA?
Attitudes.
Attitude. Thank you very much.
Sometimes you'll hear people say abilities, but typically attitudes rounds out the KSA.
So if they're missing one of those three things, when the time they're most receptive to grab a K or S or an A is when they're trying to apply it and get something done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Think about, I know you do a lot with sales, right? So if you think about a salesperson, they need the mindset or the attitude of being customer focused in that moment when they're going to try to build the relationship with the customer. So they may be having a bad day in traffic driving to that customer, but when it comes time to talk to that customer, they need to turn that attitude on, for an example.
Right, exactly. So you talk about how we've got the new technologies are really now bringing more tools, if you will, to the training and development team's bag to help people get those KSAs, knowledge, skills, and attitude.
Competencies is another way of saying
Competencies.
There you
right.
go.
So, what are the ways that those can be present in that moment?
I apologize. It's the end of our first day, and so my brain's a little twittering or flittering right now. And there's a term I can't think of right now you'll hear about it at the TK conference this week. Performance support is part of electronic performance support. So things like, for instance, people are mobile now. So is there an app on the iPhone that gives the salesperson, for example, the 5 steps of the selling process or the key facts about their customer that they need to know before they talk to the customer, things like that. So a lot of the mobile technology is really helpful. Another thing like podcasts, there's companies that are giving iPods to their employees that they send weekly podcasts to that might be training. It might be company updates, things like that. So, and then Twittering, tweets, for example, people doing live streams of tweets and training to give both the extroverts and the introverts a chance to be heard, so to speak, and to do polling in the training. So lots of things like that where the technology, particularly the mobile devices, are becoming really crucial to the effectiveness.
So would it be fair to say that a lot of these new media, these new technologies fit into the category of job aids?
Well, I would think so. Some people that are more experts in job aids may disagree, but I think so because in my mind, a job aid is just really anything that's going to help you perform on the job right in that moment. Right. And so many of them, like for instance, the iPhone application I mentioned where a salesperson can look up the information on the app, that's definitely a job aid. A podcast may not be so much a job aid if it's, for instance, delivering training that they're learning that maybe they're listening to while they're driving, but they don't need it in that moment. Okay, sure. So that'd be more of traditional training just delivered through a technology medium.
Now, there's lots of talk about the needs of different generations and how the current generation has attention deficit, problems because of all the electronics and everything, and we live in a soundbite world. To what degree do you think some of these trends are trumping more behavioral modifications and deeper, if you will, skill and knowledge building?
Oh my gosh, Brett, that's a huge question, and I have a lot of philosophical thoughts about it. I don't have much data to share with you.
Well, I'd love to hear your views, though.
Yeah, my particular views, what I do know, for instance, I'm an adjunct professor at Washington University in St. Louis, and I went to their I Teach conference last spring, where they were sharing data about what they see with people coming into the student population. And one of the things they were saying is that the students definitely have shorter attention spans. They're having decreased interpersonal skills and having trouble like having one-on-one conversations, and also dealing with authority in respectful ways, not like the old rebellious 60s ways, but it's more that they're uncomfortable. They don't know how to have those face-to-face interactions. So given that type of information, I think that the sound bite, the technology interface is actually harming some of our longer-term skills we need to be effective in the workplace. We may be learning the technology skills, but it's hurting some of the people skills, which are shown to, when you think about like emotional intelligence, shown to be foundational across any profession or industry. There's a lot of brain research going on right now, and so that's something that I'm paying more attention to, trying to learn more about. We're able to do non-invasive brain scans now that show the activity. We're learning more about what part of the brain fires off what aspect of your body, how the chemicals react. All of those things are coming together, and I think they're showing us that the more that we're bouncing around, that we're having trouble with focus and attention, we're not anchoring the learning as deeply as we have before. So we're getting surface knowledge, but we're also learning, or we're losing the ability for integrated thinking, for systemic learning and critical thinking.
Right.
That's my take on it.
Okay, great. I'm very interested to hear your views because there's clearly a risk of that.
I believe so. I mean, the technology helps us in so many ways. But it's just like we talked about with PowerPoint today. Do you remember what I said about PowerPoint prep?
That there's this whole idea of death by PowerPoint, and then if you use it just to simply anchor pictorial images in people's minds, it's much more effective than using words.
Exactly. And the whole idea that it should serve the learners, it should serve you as a facilitator, you shouldn't serve it, right? And so that's really my belief on technology in general. We shouldn't be serving the technology.
Right.
We shouldn't be using the technology just because it's technology. We really need to think about our learning objectives, our organizational purposes, the success factors you mentioned. What does the person need to know? What do they need to be able to do? How can we get them that in an effective way and use the right technology in a smart way? And then how can we train our younger generations to understand that the technology isn't the end-all be-all. You still need the thinking and learning skills so the technology can serve you.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for all of your reviews, and I really appreciate your time today.
Great, Brett. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to reading your book and learning more about what you're doing as well.
Great. Thank you so much.
TheActuationZone.com, brought to you by ChangeLeadershipGroup.com. Copyright 2010, Brett Clay, all rights reserved.